Let's understand the idea to launch process. As a product manager, you will have a lot of ideas, or you'll have to come up with a lot of ideas, or people will be giving you a lot of ideas. But you need to, before you even dive into how do you come up with ideas, you need to first understand what is the idea to launch process. Now, idea to launch process. To understand that, let's first identify or understand what are ideas. Now, ideas can come from anywhere; they're all around us. It can come from data analytics suite, or from customer feedback, or from market outlook, or from a business stakeholders. It could come from anywhere. So, as a product manager, your task is to ensure that you have a good idea acquisition process, which enables you to stay on top of all the opportunities around you. Right? So, as a product manager, you're responsible for coming up with good ideas, good opportunities, good situations which you can capitalize on. And you need to figure out what is your acquisition process of that idea, right? For different companies, this will vary. Uh, for some, there'll be a very good customer feedback process. For some, it might be very much driven from the customer support team or from the sales team. So you have to figure out where are the ideas coming from. I need to have a good pipeline and very clear communication between the source and you yourself. Broadly, these ideas can be divided into three parts or three types: customer driven ideas, market driven ideas, and technology driven ideas. So, customer driven ideas are typically client driven and are customized to meet clients' requirements. These solutions are not scalable typically, but at the same time, if your product development process involves getting a lot of feedback from customers and you're driving a lot of user research, then customer driven ideas are very scalable. It, I mean, I'll not generalize it, but that's how it is. Market driven ideas originate from business opportunities in a certain market. So the solution is repeatable and works across the market. For example, iPhone, Zoho, etc. Right? Typically, business facing teams will share their issues, which will also contribute to the idea pipeline. And technology driven ideas originate from technology breakthroughs like Google, HoloLens, and so on. Once the ideas, also called opportunities in certain companies, are in pipeline, this idea pipeline is called backlog technically. In the product world, backlog is used to mean a collection of requirements, ideas, or features. Remember the term backlog. Product manager will prepare a roadmap from this backlog. A product roadmap outlines which product will be built when. This roadmap is designed to meet the business goals over a certain time frame. There are various formats of product roadmap which we will discuss later in the course. But for now, it's okay to just imagine a roadmap to be a sequence of features or sequence of releases that we'll be conducting. Products are then defined by writing down detailed specifications based on user research or internal data or both. This is typically presented in the form of a product requirements document, which is abbreviated as PRD. This PRD is then used by the design team to build the mockups and the UI. And engineers use this design to code and build the product, which is then tested and launched. Right? I know I introduced too many terms in this flow, but don't worry, we will go in their details very, very soon. Post launch, product manager will keep measuring the key metrics defined in the PRD to ensure that the product is serving the needs of the customers and making an impact on the business goals. So you went through the entire process and you got the product out. Now it becomes very important for a product manager to have instrumented the right levers or right methods to capture the feedback from the users, so that the next set of updates can be figured out, right? And typically he would also document this key metrics that he has to track in the PRD itself. Okay, all products go through the life cycle given below. Product manager has to ensure that product is regularly updated to ensure that the product progresses swiftly through its life cycle. This is the reason why product manager keeps an eye on the key metrics after launch, right? So this is the entire cycle. So opportunity assessments, you create a BRD, MRD, PRD, you do a product discovery, which can be small MVPs or small releases or small tests that you will be running. Then once you're convinced and you are able to convince your stakeholders, then you can get into development and then finally you launch it. This is a little more formal approach to product development, and I'm introducing here because in certain large cases or in more complicated scenarios, I'll suggest that you follow this process properly. Okay, so in the orange bar is the users. Okay, and then these users go through from stage 0 to stage 6, all the way to stage 6. So a stage gate system is a conceptual and operational roadmap for moving a new product project, that is a project that involves launching a new product, remember that, new product, from idea to launch. Stage gate divides the effort into distinct stages separated by management decision gates, or essentially gates which where a typical business stakeholder or some stakeholder would get, you would need to get his consent. Cross-functional teams must successfully complete a prescribed set of related cross-functional activities in each stage prior to obtaining management approval to proceed to the next stage. Typically, management approval is required for very high-stake um, uh, products, like for example, iPhone, or let's say a new car or things like that. While the smaller products, or I would say where the cost of failure is not too high, a lot of these things actually get bypassed, and the idea is to just go really really fast. There would still be a gating mechanism, a way to get approvals or a way to get tests before moving to the next stage, but these distinctions are way more pronounced in scenarios where the cost of failure is very very high. Okay, so you can imagine, an early stage startup would not be so formal and would just keep on moving, and would that's why Facebook has that slogan, right? Move fast and break things, because that is how Facebook was in early days. But as Facebook grew, they stopped using that, and I hope they have stopped using it. I've given this in fairly good details in the notes, so I'll rush through this entire thing. The idea here is that you start from the first stage, which is you do the idea discovery. That, like I said, the idea discovery can happen from different sources at within the organization or external to the organization. Then you scope out these ideas and identify, you filter out which one makes sense, which one doesn't make sense, which one has the right proportion of impact versus effort. That is, if you're putting an effort of 1 hour, you're getting an impact way more than worth that 1 hour cost. So this way you can start scoping out the ideas. You can identify which ideas are actually well aligned with the higher business objectives, and which ideas are not well aligned with business objectives. In which case you might completely discard them, or you might postpone them. Then after scoping out, you will start creating business cases for all the meaningful or all the relevant um ideas. From the business cases, you will typically have somebody else, once the business case has been created, typically you will present it to the business stakeholders, right? Um, to get their approvals or to get their opinions, right? Once these opinions have been created and things have been prioritized, that okay, within this sprint or within the next 1 month, this few ideas or this few business cases make the most sense, and they will propel the company forward. Those will move to the next stage of development. They will get developed, and then finally you will test it and validate it, and then finally you will launch it, and then you will do all the post launch activities, right? And as you can see, in each of the stages, you are constantly working with the users, right? You're constantly working with the users. You're getting feedback from the users. It's not a waterfall here. Okay, you're not doing all this in silo. You're not starting from idea discovery to launch, and you're doing it in silo. In each of the stages, you can see there's a whole layer of users at the bottom. uh, as you're moving from stage 0 to stage 6, the focus is improving. You, from a very broad funnel, you have slowly moved into very specific activity. And but at the same time, each of those stages are guided by the feedback that you're getting from the users. What is the project management methodology, and why do you care? Because as a product manager, you are not a project manager. Well, there is some amount of project management in all product management. Okay, so you need to understand properly uh, what's project management and how best you can use it. So here I've created a chart which should give you a good explanation of each of the stages involved in a typical project. Howsoever small or howsoever big the company is, you will typically have all of these stages. Just that they might not be that big. Each of these stages, so they may just last for 5 minutes, or they may just last for a couple of days, or they might be completely skipped also, depending on which product or which project you are working on. But still, it's worthwhile to know exactly what how exactly the stages go through. So first is an intake. So you get a request approval for a project. You basically have a certain idea, you have created a business case, and you finally request an approval for a project. Now this could be very, very formal. In certain companies, it is very formal. In certain cases, it is very informal. Now, for this stage, you will need a project sponsor. That is, you need a business stakeholder sponsoring it, which is championing it, so that it gets prioritized into the entire development cycle. Otherwise, if you do not have a business sponsor or a champion in the business stakeholder side, typically you'll find it a little challenging to get it prioritized. Right? Then you should be able to create a proposal. You should be have a proposal which you can then review and go on. For example, Amazon has a very interesting process. Um, at Amazon, even before getting anything built, you will have you a product manager is expected to create a document. The document reads like a public release document, where assuming that everything that you're saying has happened, whatever business case you were proposing has happened, and the product has been built and has been shipped. So what is a press release that you will write? What is a press release that you will write to announce it to the world that, hey, this product is out? So in all those decision meetings, every single product manager or whatever those ideas are being proposed, you have to write a press release document which will be present at the table in those meetings. And everybody has to read that press release right then and there, and not before. Okay, it's not circulated before. Now, in that meeting, everybody comes up with their own opinions, they suggest, they discuss, they debate, and then the entire work of what should be built and how it should be built and what are we targeting, everything gets streamlined, right? So the project proposal thing of the intake kind of reflects the press release approach of Amazon. It's very interesting, and it has been working very well. um, so once this product sponsor or the business champion is with you, there's a proposal that has been reviewed and has been accepted, then you go to the next stage where you initiate the entire the product development development of the product. What is the purpose of this initiation exercise? You will typically assign a PM, you will define the preliminary business requirements, you'll develop the preliminary project charter as to how soon and what are the sprints going to look like, what is required, what is not required, what is ROI, who are the stakeholders involved, and so on. Then you'll jump to the planning stage where you will scope out the project, then go on to execution of it, where basically you enact the plan, following by transition, and finally the close, that the project is done. This project part is basically once you have figured out all the product requirements and you have identified it and you have decided to execute it, from the execution point to the release point. So this is just that uh, it just covers that particular phase. So to conclude, idea to launch process is pretty straightforward, but different companies have different approaches to it and can be very, very formal and can be very, very informal. What all I covered a lot of ground, and I spoke about a lot of different steps and different artifacts that might be expected. You are not expected to remember them, but uh, it will be great if you have a certain charter, or if you have a clear direction that stage one, stage two, stage three, this is where this is where I stand in my current product development process or my launch process, because it will kind of ground you and will anchor you to know that to get to the next stage, these are the things which are pending, so I need to cover it up, right? And if you happen to land in a company which is little formal, or it is, or has a is pretty big, then knowing the stage gate process and knowing the formal way of working will definitely help you. That's all. Take care.